Wowzer! Wow, we are back for part 3 of our series with MK Ultra survivor Elisa E. I can't wait every 2 weeks for this because I'm just so excited. And,
I know.
You know, it's just
Me too.
It's one of these like very dark experiences in life that people go through, almost unimaginable. And, you know, and I guess for the human mind, there's a certain level of curiosity of, you know, you don't want to experience yourself, but when other people do experience, you kind of want to just try to put yourself in the shoes of what that could be like. And it's like, I think there's a sense of like why people like to watch horror movies, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's, you know, it's just for that fear or if you want to know, but as you learn these different experiments and torture that these MK Ultra, and this is basically trauma-based mind control that's been going on for decades now, to human beings, and you know the counts I think is up in the millions. You know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, half the people in power positions are MK Ultra, if not homegrown, created later on in life.
Yeah.
But allegedly, I was told by LaShawn, keep saying the word allegedly. You know. All right, gig's up. We know what it's at.
That's right.
So this is going to be a great show. You guys are going to love what we're going to be talking about today. We're getting into part 3 with Elisa E. You know, and one of his series is called "From Torture to Multiple Personalities to Integration," and she has been in this world from birth, in this MK Ultra world, high level, which means bloodline level, which we talked about before. So she has access to supposedly, allegedly, access to so many different people. That you would be surprised. And today we're going to be talking about the entertainment industry and, you know, who may be MK Ultra in the entertainment industry. Isn't that exciting and interesting to be thinking about?
Ooh.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, allegedly Britney Spears. We'll be talking all about that today. Elisa E is coming on right now. In fact, why don't you bring her on right now there, Wahid, and we'll talk about what's going on in her life, or I could say lives, right, Elisa E? A little humor there for you this morning. So again, I want to tell you, Elisa E, she's author of Our Life Beyond MK Ultra, books 1 and 2, which we've ordered and they're coming in. We're doing a ongoing series with her. So if you have not ordered your MK Ultra, Our Life Beyond MK Ultra, books 1 and 2, order that now so you can keep up with our conversation and where we're going with it every 2 weeks. So you can go to ourlifebeyondmkultra.wordpress.com and actually purchase the books and get on board and keep up with the conversation. You know, you don't want to be 2 steps behind, right? We're 2 steps ahead.
That's right.
There you go. We got ours coming in, and we'll be placing them out here shortly. So, Elisa, how you been since last time we spoke? Anything new and exciting in your life?
I'm doing well, actually. Thank you. Getting ready to make some kind of big life changes for myself, and so life's been very full this winter.
Well, wonderful. And you know, I'm always more concerned about people who've gone through certain traumas because to me, the indicator of where somebody is where their present state of mind is. And if their present state of mind is in a secure, parasympathetic mode for the most part, then you're going to create that type of experience, right? So where is your present state of mind right now?
Actually, a lot of gratitude right now, and moving into change. So there's a bit of a sense of adventure and possibility, potential.
Hopeful and exciting, huh? And it's scary,
yeah.
Scary and exciting at the same time. Change.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I love it.
Exactly. I've lived a very in deprogramming. I've had to live a very alternative type lifestyle due to financial pressures and so forth. So it's been an adventure all along.
Right. No, you know, and you see, that's the whole thing. I think people don't realize. Not only you, but other folks who kind of start out the gate here with not 3 strikes against you. I mean, you know, you're 10 feet underneath the ground just to get to the surface for some air. You have such a battle to go through, and then you still have to deal, after dealing with integrating 1,000 personalities. You still have to deal with putting food on your table, having a roof over your head, you know, furthering whatever interests you have, you know, once you get to that 0 point again, right? And I that's why I consider you a hero, is because where you are and what you're doing, you can't measure yourself, compare yourself to other people's success. You really have to measure your success by how far you have come in your own journey, and that's kind of hopefully you do that.
It's really true, and I constantly have to remind myself, without any envy or jealousy involved, because that's an easy place to go to. And I just have to constantly remind myself of where, like you said, where I've come, and I'm not the only one in this game that, there's a concerted effort for many like me with very particular programming I've seen, that are kept, in one example, very financially strapped constantly.
Right. Well, yeah. And that's part of like
which makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you don't have the means, or if it's a constant struggle, it's to take that focus away, to make you feel hopeless and in despair. And I know some really amazing people who refuse to live in that state despite. So, yeah.
Listen, I tell people all the time, now's the time, this energy shift here, now's the time for good, light people who get what's going on, people who are really trying to make a difference for the better in the world, to be successful in this Luciferian kind of setup world where we are right now in. And that's really your, if you want to say, best revenge, or your best success is to show in this three-dimensional Monopoly game, show that success from their perspective, because that's when I truly believe you're showing the power. And when people let go of like money issues and let go of the restraints, the kind of prison mind planet type of thinking that holds us back from being successful, at the same time sharing our truth, I think at that point it really sends a message to other people like, wow, I could speak my truth. I don't have to sign a contract with the devil, and I could actually be successful in, let's say, society's eyes. But not that that's the most important. The most important, of course, as you would agree, is being successful from your own journey, right? So with that being said, why don't we talk about people who sign contracts with the devil, if that's even the right terminology for it? So, I mean, you have an entertainment industry right now that is, I think, just out of control. I mean, you have, my God, I mean, who are some of the people up here? We have. Let's start with Britney.
DMX right there.
DMX, right?
Let's see, Britney Spears.
Yeah, let's look at Britney Spears. Well, what's your take at you're seeing how the MK Ultra works, and what's your experience been, Elisa, with the entertainment industry, and how and why it's important to have people who can be mind controlled in those positions?
Well, they become almost ambassadors and icons in our society. And I mean, I go back to kind of where the modern version of, MK Ultra started, and you've probably heard the names like Candy Jones. She was a pinup model. She was a pinup girl, and she was one of the first that I know of very publicly. And then, of course, my opinion, and these are my opinions.
Yeah, of course. This is all allegedly, all right? All allegedly.
Yes.
Make your own mind
up. And Marilyn Monroe, she was one of the first presidential models, right. And these women had access to, they traveled to different countries. They had access to some powerful people, and the concept of using in the entertainment industry, it's to me more about the influence on young people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you're bringing this up today, because there seems to be this plethora of MK Ultra breakdown in the entertainment, music, and Hollywood industry, both male and female.
Right. And
yet I discovered something recently, literally within the last couple of days, and it's been around for a while, but I just kind of stumbled upon this concept in Hollywood and the music industry called alter egos. And this is a really, it's gaining a lot of momentum, that the stars themselves are talking about their own alter egos. Some of them name into the figures of 20 something. Some of them just name one or two alter egos. And this term, I did some research yesterday on it when I had some time. And what I'm seeing is that this breakdown and overabundance of Illuminati symbology and sigils and information, they're indoctrinating the people who are watching this and following this and become fans. Let's say, fans. They're not only indoctrinating, they're desensitizing people. And this newer version of alter ego, to me, what this looks like is making it actually very acceptable and even desirable. Because these are people that people are following and they want to dress like them, they want to have their hair like them, they so on and so forth. And now they're bringing in the aspect of it's not just a breakdown, it's really cool to have an alter ego. Yeah,
to the point where I want to be tortured and created multiple personalities. I want to be like Kanye West. Did you see the Kanye West breakdown with on stage? Now, do you find? You of anybody should know the indicators or even the subtle indicators of somebody who might have been is trauma-based mind controlled. So what, you could use Kanye West if you want as an example of what did you see that made you think that he might have been mind controlled, trauma-based?
Well, the confusion, the blank stares, the out of context conversation is. Him and many others are doing this, and there's some fascinating examples that have been around for years. I did send you guys, by the way, the Shia LaBeouf video right when you were doing the intro.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
So to me, there's this, like in the Britney Spears, there can be the switch in voice and action. The whole energy of the person changes. The eyes often give a telltale sign, the pupil dilation in and out. But what I see most of the time is they look like they're actually kind of confused or they're trancing out and somebody's interacting with them still on a normal level, and then something out of context or comes out of their mouth or nothing at all, and they're in kind of a stare state.
Right. Well, and I seen Beyonce on stage where her eyes, she's sitting with, I guess, is Beyonce and Kanye West together? Is that there were
Jay-Z?
Jay-Z, that's who it is. Yeah, Jay-Z. And how her eyes just start kind of going down and up, one up, and it's they have that, they talk about sometimes with MK Ultra where that their eyes kind of are indicator of potentially of the trauma base.
Yes.
One eye is doing something different than the other eye, right?
Right. And it's hard to see with a lot of people. Sometimes it's very imperceptible, the actual change in alter, if it's not a drastic change.
Right.
But the eyes are very telling. And there can be a pupil dilation flash, and then it goes back to normal as well. And even we're going to get into some really more esoteric, and
sure.
Because I've experienced this in deep deprogramming with myself and early deep deprogramming, where the eyes change. They change. They can change color. I've had that happen in the past. Go from blue to green.
Wow.
And pupil dilation to the point of almost complete black. So it gives this very, very dark, sinister feel. And when we've already talked about kind of the entity part of it, that is present. So it's going to shift the energy. If you're in the presence of people that are doing this, trust me, when someone's fully under programming and there's entities involvement, the entire energy, the hair on your arms will stand up.
Wow.
You'll feel it sometimes and not even be able to name what's going on. So in Hollywood, it's rampant. What's been caught on video on almost an insane level.
It's a tip of
and
the.
It doesn't surprise me.
It's a tip of the iceberg. What's probably caught on video, honestly, probably because you're not there
Yes.
behind the scenes with their handlers and what they do to continue with the trauma-based mind control as they kind of slip out. Like the first thing Kanye West was, allegedly under mind control, he was shipped off to a psych center. What was that? What's that story? What's the real story behind that?
He disappeared for a while, I think, from the public eye after that.
Yeah. What do you extrapolate? What could have happened when he was shipped off to this?
Reprogramming.
Right.
Reprogramming. Yeah. Get him straightened out. And I think what happens is they'll try to straighten him out, and then if it doesn't take, then you'll just kind of see that person fade out of, high level public view.
Right. And so what do you have any idea of what techniques of this reprogramming could be if somebody kind of falls out of the typical?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I know I went through it as well. I don't have full memory of the various episodes, but basically reprogramming to me is they're going to go back in using the original methods to reinforce what was already placed in, and they can add enhancements or change the programming of certain alters if they feel that's necessary. But basically they're just gonna, it's like taking your car in for a tune-up.
I mean, I'm laughing.
Really what it is.
I'm laughing because they have it down to a science, don't they?
They do, and I mean, they're just going to re-traumatize and torture and whatever needs to happen to. I call it in the book. I don't know if I wrote this in the book, but it's like things can haunt your systems.
Yeah.
So there might be something that took place that's haunting the system of alters. And, it's like a computer program going in and taking the virus out or reinforcing and rewriting the program so that it functions more appropriately.
Yeah. Go ahead. It's really what?
It's just really, it's really scientific, but there's that esoteric side of it as well.
Yeah, you can't measure that part of it, although you experience it for sure. It's just, to me, when I see like the Britney Spears shaving her head falling apart, or the Kanye West falling apart on stage and then him shipped off, and hanging out with Trump the next few days later, or whatever it may be.
Right.
And I see. Beyonce, and I even see now. You go online, you can see some of these poor TV anchors, are falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And most people, like especially on the internet, most people get very angry at these celebrities for influencing, and understandably so, influencing, the younger generations who are not going through this mind control, but are being mind controlled through a very more subtle way. Like you said earlier, they want to be like them. So, multiple personalities, alter egos are cool. I want one too, right? That type of mentality. Right. But I can't help, honestly, Elisa, I want to know your take on it, but I really can't help but feel so bad for a Britney Spears who probably was indoctrinated from the beginning, and just, oh my God. And I hear your story, I'm like, this is probably just the same, if not worse, they go through, and probably not as worse. But I mean, how can you not feel for these people who are just lost? They're lost in multiple personalities, other, dimensions, whatever you want to call it. It's just so traumatic and so unfathomable that I can't imagine, that their celebrity status that they were promised or that they went through could be anything worth what they're gone through or going through.
Right. And I think a lot of the ones that came through their youth into either acting or music and grew up in the industry, this was started early on. There's no doubt about that. They had to. So I think there's a lack of awareness for a lot of these celebrities as well. And then the symptoms start to show up. And if you'll notice in several cases, Britney Spears, Eminem, Shia LaBeouf, they've done things publicly to express MK Ultra and Monarch programming. And there's others who are actually in their music or in their presentation. In the case of Shia LaBeouf, he did a music with a band, but the presentation is definitely all about Monarch programming.
Yeah, who's
they're
that?
showing this. They're telling.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is you got to ask, why would the handlers allow that? And it's just another example of the cognitive dissonance of the audience that's watching, and their inability to understand that these people are crying out for help. And their handlers are allowing them to show things because it helps with the indoctrination and dissemination, and they know nobody's really gonna do anything. They're not gonna believe it. So yes, my heart breaks every time I see a breakdown, because especially the higher the public figure is, the less likely they'll ever get help.
And
If they're money makers, it isn't going to happen, and that's the case with most of these very high level stars. Is they're just banks for their controllers and handlers, and it's not a glamorous life that they're leading. I can assure people that.
Yeah, and it just kind of gives me an example of like social media, how everybody you're following people who are posting every day how my life's great and all this stuff is going on, everything like that, and then you find out the true story is how miserable they are and how false of a life they're living.
Yes.
And I could only imagine the same thing with these celebrities, because you can't go through this ongoing program and torture. And one of the things I thought about when you were saying this was handlers allow them to express a little bit of awakening to this, because it allows them to go back. If they didn't have this like pressure release, they would just they would blow up, right? So it's a little valve pressure release, and no harm done, because the American and the public are just they're dumbed down about what's going on with this, because and I'll tell you why they're dumbed down about this, in my opinion, because no one could ever imagine insidiously torturing infants and children on an ongoing basis to create somebody that you can control. It's just so hard to because I believe we all have souls, and we're just naturally God-loving, beautiful entities, right? And it's just hard to fathom somebody else in that type of a situation would be the same way. So I can see how that is, but I'm so glad people like you waking up so people can look at this dark side and say, you know what? Guess what will happen if more people wake up to this? They're not going to be able to have these people in these key positions, because people are going to be like, hey, and this is not cool. So what your take for why they put the the Kanye Wests, the Marilyn Monroes and all these other key people, they allegedly MK Ultra or the trauma-based mind control, why do they put them in such key positions? What do you think the ultimate goal is? Why don't they just use them as their own slave and do things for them? Why do they have to put them in a public figure?
Well, in some cases, it's a moneymaker, like I said. And I mean, they're big moneymakers. They're not making the money. Their handlers and controllers are making via contracts and so forth. They're being used up, and also, in like politics and so forth, you're controlling decisions. You're the one making the decision for the politician. It's not the politician making the decision.
Right.
The ultimate Manchurian candidate. And then there are some, though, that, I know. The other thing I wanted to say was Michael H. Hoffman wrote a book years ago that is so poignant and so important for people to read. It's about the revelation of method. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I just forgot the title of it. But if you look up Michael H. Hoffman and Revelation of Method, I'm sure the title of the book, it's about secret societies. And we're in the time of revelation of method. They have for some time been showing us everything that they're doing. They're allowing everything to be shown, and it's kind of nobody's really going to do anything about it. Nobody's empowered enough to change it. So I've noticed, even in the 10 years I've been deprogramming, that it's the frequency and what's coming out, the amount of information is truly stunning. I mean, crossing not just the industry, the entertainment industry, but into politics, mainstream media. It's really stunning what is being revealed. And yet that cognitive dissonance has been very well nurtured into people. It has been driven into people for so long that it's simply knowing something is going on is not enough. That's the first step, but it's about moving through that into action.
Yeah.
And the one thing they don't care what you talk about. If it's not changing anything, that's fine.
Right.
It's when it starts to really change things, when it starts to have an effect.
Right.
So that's my opinion of, the three things: moneymakers, controlling decisions and policies, and of course, we are in the era of revelation of method.
Well, I do, and I think spiritual activism speaks to me more so, and how I define that real quick here before we go on break is leveling up, raising the vibration. So acknowledging what's going on with these actors, the Madonnas and the Pinks and whoever may be involved in this to whatever degree beyond their choice, right? Allegedly, I don't know why I guess
Right.
So it is, to me, what's important is that the more we unite, more people wake up to this. Instead of like saying, okay, we're going to go down to the MGM and we're going to turn the building and flip it over, right? More so, it's putting the intention out there, the prayer out there, saying, you know what? We see you waking up to this. We see you rising up to love, using love, even amongst having all these handlers around you. And that's why I like a lot of the shows I done with Kevin Shipp and things like that. Maybe you and I can do at the end of this show is we create an intention, we create a prayer so these people could wake up to that higher frequency, that energy of God. God is all there is, that unconditional love, the as you call it, the living Christ energy, right? To wake up to that. And I think that intention, that doesn't seem like activism, but to me, there is power in thought and prayer. I mean, there's much more power in thought and prayer than anything else, because it is part of scalar energy. It happens instantaneous. Thought is instantaneous, right? So
absolutely, you're absolutely right about that.
So I think that alone could shift and make a difference. And I don't think these people even understand that. I mean, I could say that right now on air, on FM radio, and on all our different internet channels all around the world. And I still don't think the handlers, these people who are so disconnected from God, will not understand what I'm saying and cannot meet me on that frequency. So, and if they did, they wouldn't be where they are. You know what I mean? They would be where we are. So I just think that's really the ultimate goal. And honestly, the whole fundamental understanding of United Intentions Foundation. You know, it's in the words itself.
Right.
So, but when we get back from break, let's talk about Lisa. Let's talk about the Disney child trap and how a lot of these folks have no idea what they're doing when they send their kids off to these potential places. And Walt Disney, you know, what groups was he involved in? And I think people will be very surprised. You know, sometimes you think these organizations are all like for that child, and you turn out it's just not what it says it is. So we'll be right back with Elisa E. She's author of Our Life Beyond MK Ultra, books 1 and 2. Go check it out at Our Life Beyond MK Ultra at .wordpress.com. We'll be right back. All right, we are back on air. We just had the most unusual experience I've ever seen in our station. You know, we've had technical issues in the past, but never this like sound. I'm sure everybody heard it, just went off and off. Hopefully we're still connected to FM as well as our other stations. So, and again, I don't know if it was our topic of the conversation today or if it was just some fluke information or fluke situation we never seen before. You know,
you didn't say allegedly.
I didn't say allegedly enough times. But not changing the topic. But I do want to address this issue. And sorry for Facebook and guys, this happened. It was definitely beyond our control. We have no idea. We'll be researching, see what actually happened. And if it was a shot across the bow, we will definitely inform you immediately about this. We hold nothing back. We're full disclosure. And Elisa, have you had any experience with this type of stuff occurring at all in your past since you've been speaking?
Yeah, I have. I've had some really fascinating stuff with trying to do radio, and one of the first shows, Ground Zero, I did years ago. I have a friend who now works there as a producer, and it took 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes, to get me on. And they said, I had some friends listening in. Some of my support staff said that it was the first time ever. They're located up in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. And
it was the first time ever that during the time that I couldn't get on, they did a commercial thing, and they advertised for the town that I live in Utah. And it had never been advertised before. So it was like sending a message like, we're listening. We know where you are.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but several radio shows have said, there's a first. This is something that hasn't happened before. And sometimes the producer will come on and explain what happened or what have you. So I think it's pretty common in this, not just with me, but with people who try to speak out about about this.
Well, it seems like they have a certain level of ownership. They feel like they own you in a way, I would assume, because they invested. If you look at it from an investment perspective, they invested their program as horrible and inhuman it actually as it is. Since birth to now, and even now, you
Right.
said even though you integrated yourself and you've integrated over 1,000 personalities and fragments, you know how hard that is to go through a lifetime, and them still to be there on the outside, waiting for a mishap, waiting for an opportunity to shut her up, or waiting for the. It's just, boy, you guys and gals are just disconnected from God, are you not? I mean, how can that be like that? But it's amazing that that you could have this experience in other places, and I think when people,
Well, Tim, it's in part it's a psychological operation, and I remember early on I would be terrified.
yeah,
I was absolutely terrified when I first started doing radio, and I was terrified my full name was going to come out. I was terrified my location was going to come out.
right,
And when I did that show, I didn't tell anybody where I was living. I do now, it doesn't matter. But, they advertised it because they knew that I was terrified of that they knew where I was and what I was doing. So for a significant period of time in deep programming, I was very scared. I didn't have that sense of connection, the conscious connection that I have now to the living Christ. And it doesn't matter to me what they do.
yeah,
It doesn't bring fear up in me. It doesn't hardly even bring up frustration anymore. I just make note of it
right.
and take notice of it. But that was a shift in who I am. And I think that has to happen, for each survivor. And then you're just doing your work, and it doesn't matter, what comes up.
Yeah, well, I mean,
What are they going to do? What are they going to do to me? They're going to torture me? Are they going to kill me? They've done both of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
So
it's like what else you
really
got? What else
nothing
you got?
left.
What else you got? Right? Yeah. No, I get it.
What else you got?
That's all you got, chump, But no, I understand, and I do, and I do feel the protection of God and Christ, whatever energy you want to say, and I know that is to be my truth and my reality, and I also know that I don't even have to sit here in a circle and surround ourselves with our archangels or our angels or our counselor or people who truly understand, because we're already surrounded by these loving entities,
Right.
and they protect us as long as we understand. I think when everybody understands that, and no matter how much, like I love talking to Thomas Campbell. He's this physicist who wrote the book My Big Toe, and he does a lot of out of body experiences too, and we talk about playing in this outside realm of life, right? And he says, Tim, when you do get into these out of body experiences and you're traveling in the what do they call that, the astral plane, right, and all that stuff, the fear is going to come up, and fear is usually going to attract other fearful things, and you could attract entities, you could attract situations. But he says the only way to get through fear, that fear, whatever you're in that process, because once you get into that fear, you're going to pop right back into your body again, right? So the only way to get only antidote to fear is courage. And so in the midst of that fear, in the midst of the intimidation that these people, these CIA operatives, these alien-based entities and energies that, by the way, I have an exorcist now, and he came on my show yesterday, so, you mess with me, you messing with him, all right? He can get rid of you guys pretty quickly. I wanted to say that. But my point is, you courage is so critical now in this time, in this paradigm shifting time. You can't stick your head in the sand. You got to look at everybody else's back, and the more we are united, my goodness, we can just change this world overnight if we stay united and stay in our courage, whatever that may be. And as you know, Elisa, there's no death. There's no death. It's
Right.
just energy is just transferred. And you know what? Like you said, what are they going to do? Send me to another life so come back even more powerful like Obi-Wan Kenobi, man? Bring it on. Bring it on. All right. So let's get back to what we're talking about that they didn't want us to talk about, all right? And allegedly. All right. So, okay. So this Disney trap. And if this sound comes on again after we talk about Disney and Walt Disney, he must have a lot of pull in their little circles, doesn't he? So, what do you know about Walt Disney?
Well, I don't know what Walt Disney himself was all about. I don't. There's a lot of conflicting ideas about where this really started to go awry, and it became a huge corporation at some point.
The Desmarais,
And I
is it
believe it.
Desmarais? Desmarais, I think the
Yeah,
Desmarais
and I
groups, yeah.
believe definitely at that point it became, a venue for mind control. And it's not even just the Mickey Mouse Club or Disneyland or Disney World, which Disney World was a part of reinforcing, at the very least, reinforcing some of my programming. We used to go there twice a year for extended period of time, and but there's the movies that are put out. They seem, really stop and take a look at some of these animated films that Disney's putting out. They are some of the most violent. Their messages. There's things that have been found in the animated film itself that the word sex was seen in the clouds in one film. There's a film, The Jungle Book, that was done by Disney years ago. Very sexual for me.
Yeah,
And
subliminal.
it was used on me as a kid,
Wow.
for reinforcing that sexual programming. So
Wow.
there's definitely something going on there. And a lot of these stars that we were talking about, Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, I don't know who all to name actually, but they came through the Mickey Mouse Club. So they started out, in my opinion, as children in some type of MK Ultra programming.
Do you think a lot of these folks who go right into the Mickey Mouse Club or the Disney experience, I call it the Disney Child Trap experience, do you think they're coming from bloodlines? Like you can only go through this real, true, beginning to the end programming if you're a part of the bloodline and more likely to be susceptible to mind control? Or you think there's, it's just a draw of the luck? I mean, they have to do their work ahead of time.
I don't know. I really don't know. That may very well be the reason behind it. You have to look at the people that have come through. It's kind of hard to track by a name. It's hard to track some of the bloodline names, but generally speaking, and this is not always the case, you're going to find more of the blue-eyed blonde, green-eyed redhead.
Yeah.
That has a lot of the bloodline qualities in it. It doesn't mean that if someone has brown eyes and darker skin or black hair that they're not able to be programmed. But in a very general sense, that's kind of how that runs through the bloodline. So.
Wow, that's fascinating.
But there's also,
Yeah.
let me just add, there's also a very strong Native American content. Like, for example, one of the things that they really, really love is to have the Celtic crossed with the Native American. That seems to be very common in a lot of survivors.
Why do you think that? I mean, what's your instinct on that?
I think that starts moving into the esoteric side. What the history is for those bloodlines. Maybe the spiritual aspect, the propensity for abilities or connection to spirit. And I want to bring that in because of what you said a little while ago. To me, it isn't that this these elite brotherhoods that are running these programs and passing them down through generations and their families don't believe in God. It's that they've chosen a different God. And they, in my opinion, understand very well the power of what I call the living Christ. And their whole purpose is to maintain a status quo here, both individually and in mass, where that isn't allowed to gain more favor and power over what they're ritualistically and esoterically and magically, with a K, continuing to bring into this realm and support in this realm. They have to keep this going.
Yeah.
It's not like they did something and now it's here. They continue because they understand sigils and twilight language, and that's to me what this overabundance in Hollywood and the music industry, it's like it's being shoved in everyone's faces in every music video and every performance. And there's a reason, because the words and the symbols have incredible power. They're magical with a K,
Right.
and they're producing spells. And when the thing that they've done is they've taken away from the masses their understanding of what words and magic and sigil and what my one friend calls twilight language. I mean, these guys and these men and women are extremely well versed. They're magicians of sort.
Yeah.
They're casting spells and performing rituals to maintain what is at work here. So to me, they very much understand the power of the Christ that I call the living Christ, the power of God, the true God. But it's their job to continually keep the other forces abundant and functioning and in control here.
Interesting. So interesting what you just said, Elisa E, and I think you're right on, because as I look out, and I have a much broader perspective on God as an energy, more so than a personified demigod that perhaps has influenced our history, right? Or demigods. But at the same time, I try not to define it. I just know that I have it in me, and I know what it is to me, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think people have to realize that when you move forward with understanding what that God is to you, and that these people, like you said, they know the power of intention. They know that you could use the out-of-body experiences for darkness or for good. They know, but they want to use darkness,
Right.
but they don't want you to know that it's good. And then when I see all these shows, and they're so heavy on Christians. I mean, they're taking Christianity out of schools. They're trying to make things. I mean, Christianity's you can make fun of. You can't make fun of any other religion other than Christianity. And I'm not even saying I'm this Baptist or Lutheran or practicing Christian there, but I have like that more of a belief system like you have. But it's still. They're like this. A new show just came on television. They're joking about Christianity. This guy has like this Jesus key, because it's a Kegis, it's just they're kind of mocking it, right? And
Right.
and truth comes in four stages, right? And first it's ignored, then it's made fun of, right?
Right.
And I think they're still in the kind of fluctuation of making fun of, and then it's strongly opposed, which I think they're in that area now too. So
Yeah.
for all you people who feel hopeless out there or don't have the courage to step up and get into this this awakening process, no, we're almost there to acceptance. We're on our way. So you got to stay strong, you got to stay united, and you got to stay in touch with God in your day-to-day intentions and as you live your life. So I think there's something there you just talked about is very big, and we're going to be closing out an FM radio at this point in a couple of minutes. But you don't mind if I keep you over again, and because we have some we have some time
Sure.
we have some time to make up. And what I want to do, Wahid, is of course keep Spreaker going, also keep Facebook going, since we kind of lost 20 or so minutes with them, or 10 minutes, whatever it was, as we were trying to figure out the what happened to the studio.
We got descrambled.
I descrambled, I
Yeah,
know.
man.
But I mean, it only makes the show better. I mean, it's kind of
That's right.
stupid, But anyway, hey, that's just my 2 cents. All right, so WDJY listeners, if you want to continue this conversation with the MK Ultra Lisa E survivor, go to Spreaker.com or go to our Facebook. Go to Facebook / United Intentions Foundation. You can watch us there, as well as Spreaker.com / United Intentions Foundation. Or go to our Patreon page too, which is patreon.com / United Radio Network. So with that, as they fall off, check it out, because this you're going to hear a story I guess they don't want you to know.